So maybe this is something that you don't see very often. There's an esophagus very chronically inflamed, as you can see if we start at the top. Now we go down and there's a little relative stenosis here. This is a site of previous radiotherapy for a squamous cell carcinoma of the esophagus. We're at 33 centimeters. And as happens after this sort of thing, then the patient enters surveillance. There's a little relative stenosis there, you can see. Patient enters surveillance and then is having biopsies, and one of these biopsies shows high-grade squamous dysplasia. So probably you need to start at the Z line and then come back off the Z line, come back. This is all looking also quite interesting. We'll come back to that, but there's too much there. But if we come back to the little stenosis, 33, where the biopsy was taken from here apparently at 9 o'clock. The question is that 9 o'clock? Is that 9 o'clock? Is that 9 o'clock? You have to obviously say that you're in a neutral position, so let's make sure we are. Here is the neutral position, so that is that the lesser curve's at 3, the greater curve's at 9. We come back. And then let's see where that is. So there is something wrong for me in the image at 4 o'clock, and as we come back, probably it's kind of centered on 4 o'clock, but it may be extends from 8, 7 to 2 o'clock. Right, and then we just have to survey the rest of the esophagus. There's also something going on here, a little bit of keratinization. Is that something, is that nothing? We need to check. And when I say we need to check with the following things. We need to check with virtual chrome endoscopy. In this case, this is the Olympus 1500 platform, so we have bright MBI, or narrowband imaging. Come back off this area. We start to see something abnormal, for sure, in the 4 o'clock, centered on the 4 o'clock, but actually it looks quite extensive, and for me, it extends right up into the 2 and down into the 7 o'clock. And if we just come back and try and get an image of the whole thing, it's always useful to try and do that. And I'm struggling to do that. Then you can kind of, I think, already appreciate, but we need more insufflation, that it's extending from nearly 9 o'clock to not sure, because the image is not good enough. So we need to improve it, and then think about where the extension is on this side, and probably you can see it here. If you just now have a look, you can draw a line from 6 o'clock to 1 o'clock, maybe. Where the abnormality is. So I'm going to mark it now, which is probably interesting for you to watch. So where I think the abnormality is, and then we're going to put Lugol on after that, so that we can. So that's Lugol's iodine, a way of highlighting squamous dysplasia. We're going to put that on afterwards to confirm whether or not our marking is right. One of the problems with putting on Lugol's iodine before, we're going to resect this, right? I mean, maybe I should have said that, but the problem with putting it on first is that it can become very, very difficult to mark and get your marks to work. And also, you don't lose information, because here I'm using 2 sources of information, whereas if I put the Lugol on first, I can't use virtual chrome endoscopy to do anything. So put out the knife, please. I like to mark with the tip of the knife out. I know some people don't. We're right down on the stenosis here. This can be very, very difficult to resect this, of course, here. So I want to put a mark beyond here, but of course I'm with the expectation I'm not going to get very far down there, that's for sure. Staying on normal. I'm going to come in closer, use near focus to look at this margin. I think I can see it here. So, all right, I'm going to come off it here, open. I don't think obviously, one consideration always is the degree of the circumference that you're planning to take. Just got to come around it here though. You see again the thing coming into the view here at the 6 o'clock for me. Still at the 6 o'clock. Maybe the edge is very difficult to see here. I'm going to come up here. Going to check the other side first before we do that one again. So we're already right up in the sky here. And then let's check this side. So here's the bottom of the thing. I think probably if we come off a bit, this scope has dual focus. It's actually a lot easier to just use that rather than near focus. Probably we're down onto the bottom of it here. And then let's go up this edge. So we'll go up here now. I think I see the edge here, but I need to back off it to be sure. And maybe we need to be wider here. Maybe this is something, but we're not going to take everything. And if we have something left, we can always come back and do it later. Nice article in, I think, Endoscopy this month about that sort of thing, especially where it's dysplastic. Staged EMR to prevent, ESD, sorry, to prevent stenosis. And now we need to see how far we need to come up here. So actually already we are looking at that, and I'm also looking at this thing at the 12 o'clock and thinking probably that's all right, but we'll check with the iodine. Already this is the only part we're sparing of the circumference, so yeah, already we're quite broad. And then we need to think about where this thing is coming to north of here. I think probably the main area of abnormality is ending around about here. So we probably, it's very difficult. It's very difficult, and you could say, okay, well actually I need to come up this whole area when you start to look at it like this. And this does often happen. So when you're doing this, and I guess real life, you often see something which you think, okay, actually that changes what I want to do. If we just look a little bit at the IPCL pattern here, for sure it's not normal. It's also not highly abnormal when you compare it to what we're seeing in some areas around here. And we'll see if we can find a part of it for you to have a look at. We'll also see some abnormalities here in this zone. We inflate a bit. But for sure we have slightly dilated loops. They're going in a different direction. But yeah, when you look at this from afar, then maybe we think that the thing ends now about 2 centimeters away from the endoscope. And I think this is probably something that we would do stage. So I will mark here now, and then we will apply iodine, and we'll see what that also gives. It can be very difficult, and I think that is nicely demonstrated here. Okay. You can see the pattern is very different just where the knife is to where it's off it. Okay, so I think we have the majority of that thing in here. This edge is a little bit suspect. So now we'll go for the Lugol's iodine to decide whether or not that's sufficient. I mean, I think you have to consider in this patient already had radiotherapy to be, we've only found dysplasia, we've not found cancer. We don't see huge evidence of highly abnormal IPCLs to be a little bit conservative in terms of stricturing. Okay, we can go. Stop. Patient's intubated as well. So you have to be careful with this because, of course, cancer can look the same as not very well stained, I would say. But you can see that for sure the main area of abnormality, if we just freeze it, is located within the dots. So we just freeze it here, you have kind of a bull's head shape with a horns area centered on that little, what looks like a dot but is not a dot, is a bit of keratinosis, I think, here. within the dots. So I think this is the main area of abnormality. You also have lots of different areas out here, which could be something, could be nothing, but are almost certainly unstained. Because we come up here, we don't have any Lugol anymore. So I think this confirms to me that my dots are okay. So we go ahead and just check the edges of my dots. This maybe is something worth checking more, but I'm still not terribly convinced about that area at the top. I think it's probably ending right here, right in the dead ahead position. Difficult to tell. Consider that in a second. And this edge looks to be all right. Apart from here, where we would want to go a little wider. Yeah. And then if you just take that image where you see at the 12 o'clock and the 6 o'clock that there is maybe 2 centimeters between the two, then you think, well, actually, maybe we should take the whole circumference. Anyway, I'll leave you in suspense. We'll stop the video. I'll leave you in suspense about what we actually do, but this is probably something interesting for you to see the complexities of doing this and the way that you can use both to get additive information. And I think AI will help us with this more in the future for sure. Thanks for watching.